I'm a performance artist, but I work as a conceptual artist, where I dream up a performance project, and rather than performing in it myself, I am behind the scenes and I design the structures, the installations, the costumes that the performers are wearing. I just created a performance called Hustle. I'm very interested in how something that intervenes in your daily routine could actually cause you to change your perspective on the world. So I created yellow chalk shoes that would outline historical areas for the city to really stop and watch, causing people to stop for only a moment, and they might see the world in a brand new way. That's something that I'm driving at in my performances. And it was interesting because in the Kalk production, which we did in 1998, I had 11 performers scuffing their feet around the perimeter of a former freshwater pond that used to exist in Lower Manhattan. And the audience not only would stop and watch, but they actually, some of them would follow us on this very long, slow procession around the city. And that became quite beautiful. Well, there's a phrase that my husband says called "geluk ligt op de straat," and that is happiness lies on the street. And to me, that really means that you can walk down the street and have your perspective changed. I love that idea. Variable City was a first-time collaboration between urban design and performance art. We wanted to see how performance art could serve a function in the early phase of urban design research. And we chose a very heavily trafficked but very misunderstood intersection in downtown Brooklyn, Fox Square. It was named for a theater that used to exist but was destroyed in the early 1960s. And it was important for us to begin to raise awareness about that area through the history, but also about people's perceptions of that space. So having lunchtime performances, which I often do out on the street, you know, it creates a jar and perhaps shocks the person into a new realm of meaning, into a new understanding of the place that they're visiting every day, that there are layers of history beneath their feet that they're not thinking about. Marty Markowitz, the Brooklyn Borough President, honored our project with a special citation acknowledging the importance of performance art in the role to understand urban life. I feel in a way to qualify performance art with visual helps to show the emphasis that I place on the visual symbolism that I'm incorporating in my performances, visual metaphors. And I think that's very important to help people enter into the work. Rather than keeping people out, it's really about bringing people in. Feast explored the origin of desire as we were inspired by reading Plato's Symposium. I thought a lot about the way we walk through the street, being led by our curiosity sometimes, like you move from one storefront window to the next. And so I was inspired actually to design a house that looked like the building that it was in. It had this remarkable pitched roof, and then place inside that pitched roof 8 windows that were the scale of large storefront windows. And my idea was to see, in some way, to sort of radically redesign what a theater space might be. I read a story in the news in 1999 about an oil tanker named Erica that crashed off the coast of Brittany and devastated the area. This performance was very much about the struggle between the environment and industry. The women, to me, in black represented the oil tanker, you know, where they would rock and sway from side to side, looking like the masts of the ships. All of the movement was inspired by washing and scrubbing gestures, imagining the water personified by these women trying to cleanse itself of the oil. And once they reached a point to sort of clean themselves, I had a series of 30 dancers in the same blue dress return and shake blue powder all over the stage to, in some sense, you know, we think that the water is clean, but it's actually toxic. To me, beauty is more persuasive to inspire change than shouting at the top of one's lungs. When is a project I created in 1999. It was commissioned by the New Museum for Contemporary Art. For the project, I wanted to see if I could challenge the audience moving down the street to actually stop long enough to see if they would perceive the passage of natural time. And I wanted people to examine their role to time in order to understand their relationship to aging. We created the performance to simulate the effect of a sundial and created 2 costumes that were attached to 2 walls, and the fabric of the costume was attached to the fabric covering the walls. And when the performers moved, they brought the walls with them, thereby changing the dynamic of light in the window space. We had, I think, only 5 performances, but I suspect we reached over 5,000 people during that performance. It's very unusual to be a performance artist and be running a not-for-profit at the same time. And I think, in a way, that's just an old perception of the art field. Our company is coming up on its 10-year anniversary. It's remarkable. We've survived 10 years, and there's a challenge out there because there's a tradition of grant making that is linked to, there are boxes to check. Are you a dance company? Are you a museum, a visual arts organization supporting other artists? Are you a theater company? And we don't fit into a neat category. Every year we're starting up from scratch in a way because the only grant support that I have found that's available to us is quite often related to the project, but not necessarily to the organization. I have 5 projects in the works that I see developing perhaps in 4 years, and I'm very committed to seeing those projects happen. There are so many ways that we can in our everyday life be dissociated with the world, and performance art is a way of reconnecting to that kind of vividness that's really important to being alive.